So what is the difference between keto and paleo? Because they really parallel each other quite a bit. I wanted to do this video to truly help you understand what's for you, which one might be better. And I know a lot of you know that I do a lot of keto videos, but that doesn't mean that I'm totally hard set in ketosis. I want to make sure that you understand the key differences. Two of the most popular diets in the world right now, keto and paleo. So what are the key differences first and foremost? Well, let's take a look at what each of the diets is. So when we look at paleo, we're looking at what our ancestors would have eaten, okay? What we would have eaten 1,000, 2,000 years ago. So we're talking about limited grains, limited processed foods, no sugars, no artificial ingredients, things like that. It sounds pretty wholesome. And then we look at ketosis. Ketosis is a complete metabolic shift. Totally different ballgame. You're getting your body from utilizing glucose over to utilizing fats as a source of fuel. So ketosis, you're shifting your metabolism a whole different way. Paleo is a little bit more of just an eating style, more of a preference more than anything. But there's some commonalities between the two, and we really need to understand how this process works. As far as similarities go, there have been collective studies from the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition, the Journal of Internal Medicine, the Journal of Endocrinology and Metabolism, and the New England Journal of Medicine that have all found that both keto and paleo result in lower triglyceride levels, lower blood pressure, lower blood sugar, and lower levels of insulin. So as far as health is concerned, they're both great. They both really have a big benefit there. But where do they really start to differ? And where should we really be paying attention? So the big difference that we have to look at between paleo and keto is that paleo is still utilizing carbohydrates as its primary source of fuel. It doesn't matter if it's 50 grams, 100 grams, or 200 grams. Paleo is still using carbs. You're still using glucose uptake to actually fuel your muscles and fuel your mind. Whereas keto, you're utilizing beta-hydroxybutyrate, a whole different ballgame. And like I said, even though some of the foods cross over, big difference in how the body is metabolizing fuel. There's a couple other differences that we want to pay attention to. The big one is dairy. Okay, when you look at paleo, paleo doesn't consume dairy. Why? Because dairy massively disrupts gut health, and there's a fair level of processing that goes into most dairy. So when you look at a paleo person, they're usually avoiding the dairy like the plague. They don't want to consume it. But then, unfortunately, when you look at keto, there's a massive consumption of dairy. Now, personally, I don't condone the heavy use of dairy. I'm not a fan of it. But that doesn't change the fact that Western civilization and predominantly the American culture is really heavy on dairy, especially in keto because it's easy to lean on. You can go and you can have some heavy cream.
Point, but it is generally accepted that for a person who eats 2,000 calories a day to be considered a low-carb dieter, their daily carbohydrate intake needs to be below 125 total grams. To be considered in the keto range, their consumption would drop to less than 50 grams per day. In contrast, the standard dietary recommendation for carb intake starts at 225 grams and goes up. So you can see that in order to move from a traditional diet to a low-carb diet, even the healthiest eater will need to cut their carb intake in half to enter the low-carb range, and by at least 3/4 to enter the keto range. So it's obvious that both a low-carb diet and a keto diet require you to reduce your carbohydrate intake. But what does that look like in real life? Which carbs are off limits and which are okay? Well, when it comes to foods that contain carbs, there is a big difference in health value. On one end of the spectrum, you have nutrient-poor, carbohydrate-dense, sugar and processed snack foods. On the other end, you have nutrient-dense, low-carb, non-starchy vegetables. Both low-carb and keto diets eliminate sugar and refined carbs. Where the two diets start to differ is with starch. Starch is a term that describes the carbohydrate molecule. Starchy foods contain long chains of sugar molecules bonded together. So essentially, the more starchy a food is, the more carbohydrates it contains. A keto diet is a very low-carb diet, so starchy foods like grains, potatoes, corn, rice, pasta, and bread are omitted. A keto dieter can, however, eat non-starchy vegetables, which include foods like leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, and asparagus. And for some, small amounts of low-carb fruits, nuts, and seeds can be added. A low-carb diet is less restricted, so there is room for larger portions of non-starchy vegetables, nuts, and seeds, and a wider variety of fruits. And while starchy foods are still limited on a low-carb diet, they are not entirely omitted as they were with the keto diet.
What's the best way to keto? Should I eat this? Should I eat that? I thought being keto was good enough. Now they say I should be carnivore, but the other person says that's too much protein. Stop, slow down, and listen. As much as I teach keto newbies to fill their bellies with their favorite high-fat foods like wings and bacon and cheese, this is a time of transition where they're moving from a sugar-based fuel to fat-based fuel. And if they only focus on the food, they are missing the most important reason to keto. People start keto for physical reasons. They want to lose weight. They want to get off those prescription medications. That knee that's been bothering them for 30 years was better when I was keto, so I want to be keto. And indeed, they lose weight. They get healthier. They are incredibly better. But if they only ever focus on the food, they're missing the most important reason to keto, which is to fix the reason they got there in the first place. And this is to reverse food addiction. Food addiction is not a popular topic on YouTube. And as somebody playing the YouTube game, it would be far better if I would have a thumbnail that says, drink 1 cup a day and you'll power wash the insides of your arteries. Instead of saying, hey, food addiction is what you're really struggling from, and this is how you reverse it for real. One is dubiously presenting an easy way to fix your problems, and the other gets at a core cause, the root cause of why you're here. People will gravitate towards those quick, easy, additive solutions, and this is true in my clinic. They'll come to me for a problem that's been chronic and been a major issue. And when I tell them that a prescription or a supplement is not going to fix this problem, they're disappointed. This is a problem that you've been brewing for 30 years. And we need to subtract the things that are actually causing the problem.